Marco and I, we started at A&M about the same time, almost 20 years ago. He was an extension with me, and I remember that I was sure to always go before him because he get the flashy economics, the fun, everybody's engaged, and he's also, a very good speaker. So I just made the point always go before him. Now he moved to research, and we haven't been in a trip together for about 3 years maybe or so, more or less. Now I remember I never go after Marco. Okay, what was that? Exactly. Well, I'm the well, I don't want to say boring because I love it, but it's the numbers guy. I'm the bean counter. Okay, we're looking at the true economics. If you were thinking, oh, economics might be cool, well, I'm the other side of that. But I'm not saying that it's needed, but well, somebody has to do it, and I enjoy it. So, anyways, if you have any questions, just stop me at any time. The title of the presentation is Workshop of Enterprise Budget Construction, but I'm going to give you a kind of like an ideal scenario of why we started as what we call representative farms. What are they used for? How you can develop this network, okay, and then go into this is what we need for the project, and how from the ideal world for us in economics, we'll get all the data to what we have and what is achievable. Well, first, what are the objectives of the project in terms of the economic measurement, and what can we do with the help of industry so we can create this budget, because there's not a lot of budgets out there. We did some review and then just a few. So let me just give you an overview of how we've used this with the representative farm network that we have with the Agriculture and Food Policy Center, how the results could look like from a previous project that we did also with Marco, and where we at this project, and how we can make it happen, or how we can adjust it to this specific project. All right. So the outline is we're going to talk about the farm again. We're going to do some economic scenarios on a previous work, and then where we are at on the project. First of all, the Agriculture and Food Policy Center is at Texas A&M University, and they do farm level analysis of the economic well-being of farms across the United States, and this is mainly for the Farm Bill. They analyze the changes in the Farm Bill and see how those changes are going to affect the farms in different parts of the U.S. So the main clients are agricultural committees of both the lower and the upper house, and the main thing that they use it for is on the Farm Bill. So they are doing it right now, and they're running a lot of different scenarios. This is the representative farms of that the policy center have across the U.S. And you can see there's rice producers, dairy producers, cotton, et cetera, all across the U.S. And basically what they have there is a panel of producers that helps them create a representative or a virtual farm that shows how that farm is doing with the variables at the place, price, yield, any policy around. So they're measuring how they're doing in terms of probability of success and probability of that they're going to be able to continue farming. So that's the idea behind all this that we're going to try to do. And for that, it's the representative farm becomes a baseline. It's like if everything is the same, this is how they're doing right now, given prices, yield, and policy. Now, what happens if you change things? What if the price of corn or the support for price of corn goes up? What happens if we start losing market share outside of the U.S.? How is that going to affect the profitability for those farms across the Texas? Of course, if the price of corn goes up, then livestock producers, they don't like it because it costs them more to feed their animals. So there's a lot of linkages here. Okay. So and they do what if analysis, and they do a stochastic component, which is basically the price. Instead of getting an average price, they get a history of prices, so you have probabilities. Again, I know it sounds boring. For us economists, this is, Disneyland. So anyways, the idea is to gather all that information. And this one is just an example of a previous project that we did. It was a cookup project. It was lasted 5 years. And we developed these farms in different states. We got California, Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. We got pickles, we got watermelons, et cetera, et cetera. And the idea that we did is that, for example, in California, we did 3 watermelons. And the idea there is to have a small watermelon farm, a medium, and a large. The idea behind it is their economies of scale. Is a small producer not making that much money because of they're too small? How about the medium and how the relationship with those things? So we were able to develop this one, and believe me, it takes a long time to try to gather this information. But once you have that information, that's what the exciting part happened, because it's the what if analysis. What happens if we have new varieties? What happens if we can charge more for our products? So what happens if in different scenarios? So for that, we need to get that information. On the top, you're gonna have, these are the California budgets, and this one we have price and yields on the top. That's your revenue, and then a list of prices. Of inputs. You got fertilizer, you got operating costs, you got seed, you got plastic, etc. For 3 different size of farm. And at the bottom here, you're gonna have your net return on a per acre basis. Okay? So once you have that data, then the other part, again, for us is exciting, is trying to have the price and yield that is stochastic, meaning that there's an average price for the year, but for specialty crops that fluctuates a lot. So we want to be able to capture that distribution of prices and distribution of yield as well, because the yield, depending on water, depending on insects, is going to change. So we have distribution around a yield. This one a year is about 500, and this one is about 300. But then you have a distribution around it. We have the same thing for price. Now we have these neat graphs that are CDF graphs that basically shows the probability of success of each of these farms. But for producers or non-economists, this is the chart that most of our customers like. And let me just give you an example. This was we're updated with data for March of 2020, and here we have each one of these bars here are farms. We have the Texas cantaloupe. We got the first 2 are Texas cantaloupe. Then we have Florida small watermelon. You got medium and you got large watermelon. Then you have California cantaloupe 3, and all the farms are here. Okay, so once you have that data, once you collect that data, then you can put a picture of the net returns for those specific farm. Now, what are the red bars? The red bar is the probability that they're going to lose money, that they don't even break even. Okay, so the more the red, the less profitable the farm. And if you can see, for example, let's say numbers are very, very small, but let's say California here, they have this small cantaloupe farm in California has a 76% chance of negative net return. Okay, not even break even there. Now, and then so all of them that you see in red is a probability that they're going to lose money on a specific, given the distribution of, and it's a probability. Okay. Now the yellow part in the middle is when you put like an upper bound. It's like what happens if we make, let's say $1,000, at least $1,000, because let's say that if we make $1,000 per acre more, then we're gonna get a bonus. As a manager, you're gonna get a bonus. So you can choose what that upper bound, so you can get the yellow one over here. Okay, and then the green one is what is the probability that is above that. Let's say in this case, let's say $1,000. What is the probability that we're going to make more than $1,000 per acre? Okay, so here we can compare all these farms, and we know that what red is bad, yellow is It's all right in between there. Might get a bonus, might be able to afford vacation. And then if it's green, it's like, okay, we're really good. Okay, but remember that this is a baseline. Okay, now we can play the what if game. Once you have that baseline, it takes a lot of time to develop, and it's very, it's again, I don't want to say boring because that's what we do, and I really enjoy it, but it is boring for non-economists, let's say that. Yeah, but once you have that, then it becomes the exciting part of like, yes, play in different scenarios. In this case, I said, okay, what happens if the price goes up by 20%? Another scenario is what happens with the yield if it goes by 20%. In this case, for example, you find a variety that is resistant in rose rosette. Okay, all right, let's put it in there. What's going to happen there? Your cost is going to go increase, but also your price might also increase, so your yield is going to increase, and blah, blah, blah. So we can have different scenarios here. And then my third scenario here, you're going to have price and yield going up by 20%. So I can do side by side. This is my baseline. This is what happened to the farms when there's a 20% increase in yield across the board. As you can see, there's a lot less red here than here. It might be a little bit more there might be also more green on the top, and depending on how the distribution of that farm is, there's going to be more or less yellow. Okay. The other thing that I forgot to mention here, looks like, in California, we have 3 different sizes. There is an economy as a scale. Because the larger the farm, the lower the probability of losing money. Okay, so some of them are not going to make it because they're too small. So the plan could be to try to get a little bit larger so you can gain some economies of scale. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you become too big that your costs are just too high, and you enter into these economies of scale. So anyways, as you can see, again, everything is going to be affected by this 20% yield increase from the baseline. We have what happens when you have a 20% price increase, as you can expect as well. 20% price increase of your product, then your red is going to be less, and then you expect that your green is going to be higher, and then depending on how each farm goes, the yield is going to be one or the other. And then the last one I had to show there is what happens if you have both a 20% increase in yield and a 20% increase in prices. And you see that it really, really affects, and you get a lot more green there. So that's a way, again, in this farm, they're not a specific farm. It was a panel of producers that helped us develop this farm. It's not a real farm. We call it representative because it represents a region, an area, a crop, a production practice. But we also call it a virtual farm because it's created out of thin air using the experience of producers in that time. And that helped us try to get the information. But of course, because we're economists, we're looking for cost of production. Most of the time, producers don't want to share that information. But once we say we don't want your specific number, we want to create some farm that is going to represent everybody here in this panel. That's what is also important to get to that panel. Who participates in the panel, then we can create something like that, and it's going to then you can be very close to what is reality, because numbers, I can create numbers out of thin air. That doesn't mean that they mean anything. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
It's like the expenses very high.
Yes, but at the same time, we had to look at the tails. You remember that I said, it's a tail. So you have a probability here, but California, when it's a good year, the tail goes really, you can make a heck of a lot of money there. Texas, the distribution is a lot smaller. So, anyway, yes, sir.
When you had your list of your representative farms, you had different crops in different states. You had Pennsylvania farmers growing cucumbers and North Carolina farmers growing pickles.
Yes.
What's really the difference there? a cucumber, makes a pickle. So I was trying to figure out, is it a processing?
It's a completely different market. It's kind of like strawberries for the fresh market and strawberries for the frozen market.
Okay, so
The
one
price is, yes.
Pennsylvania is slicing cucumbers, and the one in North Carolina was producing cucumbers for pickle.
Right.
But they're both producing cucumbers.
Right. But when you look at the cost of production all the way to the pickles, it's completely different. It's a different market. And of course, yeah. So that's a different. Yes.
Yeah, your cost of production was the same for all this year, right? The cost of production was the same for yes, yeah. But we all know that it's subject to change, inflation and stuff. So what is the percent about it? Yeah, it's human inflation because well, remember that you're comparing if you want to compare farm, you would expect that the inflation is not that impact. You compare one with the other, you compare biology, you compare things. So the inflation for one, actually that is huge. Well, but you see, what you're comparing here is options among themselves. You see, not necessarily how much money you're going to make, because that varies a lot as well. Remember, for us economists, everything always equal. We know that inflation is not going to happen. What happens if there's going to be another war? What happens if we cannot get fertilizers? I mean, your cost of production is going to change a lot, but you're comparing different varieties, for example, in this case, different farms. They're going to affect them a little bit differently, but they're going to be affected. So you see, we're not telling you how much you're going to pocket next year. We're telling you these are the options, and these are going to change even if the changes in price. Sorry, in the cost of input.
Yes. And one last question. I'm sorry, people can have one last question. When you're producing this data, are you producing it for farmers to use to figure out what they should or should not be doing?
Yes, yes. Okay. The short question is yes.
Determine whether or not they will give that farmer a loan?
Yes, you actually have the cost of production budgets at extension that we do it for Texas. Well, and that's what this is job specific. So depending on what is decided as a project, and also what we tell producers as a panel, what we're going to be using for, but they can use it if they want to. But they can say, hey, this is just going to be for this project and for research stuff. Right, and that's what we're very careful on who uses that. When we have the panel of producers, they know exactly what they're going to tell them. If you don't want this data to be shared, and at the same time, we don't put the name of the producer. We don't give also something as specific as that. For example, we don't. I mean, in general, we publish as an extension budget, but if this one is from producers, we don't do it that specific. The analysis that the results that we're going to show you something like that. So it's embedded behind it, and you can tell the probability of returns and all that, but you don't see the actual data of what they're getting, because you're showing how much money they're making, and that's very it's yes, exactly. So we're very careful with that, and they know what we're getting to. But again, the other thing is that we assure them to say that this is not your farm. This is something that we're trying to create to represent you all. And that helps quite a bit. So, yes. Sure. The question was that these numbers are not just for one specific budget. There is stochastic simulation, and thank you, Marco, for that. And remember, what I mentioned here is that usually the things that change are going to be prices and yield. Okay, and whatever the yield is affected on the, let's say, harvesting or some other things, seed costs and whatever it is going to be also be changing. It's going to be stochastic, but usually it's prices and yield. And we do a simulation. We do, okay, you know, this is the, we have 10 years worth of data in terms of prices and yield, and we use that to create 500. So we can have a distribution of the variables that we want to do. So that's what we, instead of presenting you just one number, the okay, you know, the Texas farmer is gonna make, let's say, $100 an acre producing watermelon. Instead of give you one number, what we give you is 500 numbers with probabilities on it. Even though on average the Texas farmer is gonna make $100 per acre, but it's also gonna have about a 2 or 3% chance of being negative. It's gonna have a whatever it says over there, I think it says 23% chance of being between, let's say, 100 and 1,000, and he's going to have 76% chance of being above 1,000. So that's the stochastic component. So you can have more information to make decisions. But again, it's not going to give you a specific number of what you're going to make next year, because that's impossible to do. We just give you an idea so you can compare between different options, I guess. All right, and then where we are, sorry, I'm a couple of minutes out. I just want to mention, this is what we said that we're going to do in this project. We're going to do 4 rows production and maintenance systems, field via budding, field with liners, container using liners, and container using bare root plants. That's what we said that we're going to do. That's what I needed help from industry, from you all, just to say, okay, you know, who is the group that is going to help us to try to develop this, so we can do this type of analysis. Again, the data, if you don't want us to share the data, it's going to be only for research purposes. We're going to show the aggregated data. We're not going to do one specific, you know, number by number. We can get as the numbers. I did some lead review of what's out there in terms of roses. There's some UF budgets on ornamental flowers, then some LSU budget, but they're ornamental crops, but that were very outdated. It can be as specific as this. These are all cost of production budgets with herbicide, how much you use, what type of product. We don't need that. What we need is something, okay, you know, how much you use on herbicide, fertilizer in general, so we can have an idea of this budget represents a specific production system, a crop, an area. And then with that, there's my contact information. And like I said, you know, I'll be glad to answer any questions afterwards. I'm going to be here the whole day. But hopefully you can help us to try to build these budgets. We said that we're going to do it. So that's the ideal world. It's a panel of producers, and then we'll go down from there.